Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're doing an educational breakdown of some wildly popular historical misconceptions. We all have these really vivid, terrifying images in our heads when we think about historical punishments, right? These elaborate, almost villainous contraptions that look straight out of a horror movie. But what if the reality of human cruelty wasn't about theatrical devices at all, but something far cruder, simpler, and honestly, infinitely more disturbing? Today, we're separating sensationalized pop history from the grim, unfiltered truth.
We're kicking this explainer off with a pretty visceral quote straight from our source material. Quote, "You think the Iron Maiden was scary? Well, it's fake. Here's something real that will actually make you want to go vomit." This perfectly sets the tone for us. It immediately challenges our preconceived notions and warns us that the actual history we're about to uncover isn't just scary, it's deeply nauseating. It tells us that what we made up is absolutely nothing compared to what we actually did.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with shocking torture myths, look at the Iron Maiden as historical fiction, and then face the harsh reality of punishment by pressing. From there, we'll dive into the story of Giles Corey, do a direct comparison of fiction versus reality, and finally draw some conclusions on past cruelty. Let's get right into it.
Shocking torture myths. You know all those ridiculously elaborate torture devices you see in museums? The ones that look like they needed a whole team of evil engineers to put together? Well, our source actually classifies them as complete balderdash. They were mostly invented way after the fact, designed specifically to thrill and scare tourists and readers. So we really can't take this sensationalized pop history at face value.
Section 2. The Iron Maiden as historical fiction.
You've definitely seen it in movies. That terrifying, human-shaped cabinet lined with massive spikes on the inside, meant to slowly impale someone as the doors close shut. It's like the ultimate symbol of medieval brutality, right? Well, it's actually a total fake. It was literally never used to torture anyone in the ancient or medieval world. Proving it's just a theatrical invention completely reframes how we view history, because it forces us to ask, if the Iron Maiden wasn't real, what was?
Section 3. The harsh reality of punishment by pressing.
Enter the actual horror, pressing. There are no fancy iron cabinets here, no carefully forged spikes, just raw, crushing gravity. Pressing was a very real, highly documented, and absolutely horrific historical punishment. It literally just involved gradually crushing a person under heavy stones. It was slow, it was agonizing, and there was zero theatrical flair to it. It's a punishment born out of blunt, unrefined brutality, not a dark imagination.
Section 4. Giles Corey and his famous last words, "More weight."
To really ground this raw cruelty in a specific, unforgettable human moment, we have to look at the story of Giles Corey. He actually faced the grueling physical reality of pressing firsthand. He didn't die in some fake, spike-lined cabinet. He endured an unimaginable death right beneath the crushing weight of ordinary stones. It completely strips away all the Hollywood glamour of torture and leaves us with this terrifying picture of physical endurance and human suffering.
And during this agonizing process of being slowly crushed to death, Giles Corey actually spoke. His final words are legendary: "More weight." It perfectly captures the grim stoicism of true historical suffering. He didn't confess, he didn't beg for mercy, or ask for a complex machine to end his life. He just looked at this incredibly crude method of execution and demanded they speed it up with more stones. It is an unbelievable display of defiance in the face of absolute cruelty.
Section 5. A comparison of fiction versus reality. So let's compare them directly to see the massive disconnect between what we want to believe about history and what actually happened. On one side, we have fiction, the Iron Maiden. It's theatrical, incredibly elaborate, and entirely fake. On the other side, reality, pressing. It's crude, brutally simple, and heavily documented. We probably invent these complex machines in our heads because it makes the cruelty feel a bit more distant, almost cartoonish. But the violently crude methods actually used in the past, like literally just stacking heavy rocks on a person's chest, remind us that real human cruelty is usually incredibly mundane and straightforward. Section 6. Conclusions on past cruelty.
I want to leave you with a provocative thought to wrap up this explainer. Why do we invent theatrical torture myths when the true cruelty of the past was simply heavy stones and human silence? Why does our society prefer to be entertained by fictional horrors instead of just confronting the dark, simple, and nauseating reality of our own history? It's probably easier to stomach the idea of an evil genius designing an Iron Maiden than the reality of ordinary people slowly crushing a man named Giles Corey with everyday rocks. Definitely something to think about the next time you see a sensationalized history exhibit. Thank you for diving into this with me today, and keep questioning the narrative.